amazing, isn't it? One of the most abundant substances known to man. And they say that it covers about 75% of the Earth's surface. Absolutely incredible. Some people would say that it's the life giver. And without it, no life would be able to exist here on Earth. But today we're interested in water and its behaviour and ask some questions about it. So I'm going to come at it from a couple of different points of view here. On one hand, for somebody like myself, I have an understanding of this substance that I've had since childhood. I'm pretty sure the majority of you have had it. And one thing is for certain that I can make a claim here that water, as we observe it in the natural world, it flows on a gradient. And the steeper the gradient, the faster it will flow. But as the gradient recedes and we start to find ourselves in a situation of containment, what we find is that the water will go from the lowest point and it will fill up the containment. It will take the shape of the containment and it will form a free surface. And as we observe it in the natural world, it appears that it forms a horizontal level plane. And as it gets to the end of the containment and it starts to breach the containment, it continues on its journey and it keeps flowing on the gradient until it comes to the next lowest point, where it's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to fill the void from the lowest point upwards and it's going to continue on so. And if the containment was, ever increasing and its walls up, the water level would just continually rise and rise and rise. And if it was infinite, it would continue to do so. And as I say, if it's finite, it's going to get to that point, breach it, and continue on its journey flowing. So, here we can start to apply something known as the scientific method, where we can take the observation from the natural world, we can make an assessment, some predictions on what we think water is, how its behaviour is going to be, and we can put that to the test. So that's exactly what we intend to do. So we can come at it from that point, where we're going to have the observation and we're going to go through the scientific method. We can also go from another point of view where other people will claim differently. So the claim is continually put to me that the Earth and its water, bodies, lakes, oceans, rivers, canals are actually curved, and that water as a substance has the ability to support that sort of shear stress so that it can form a convex surface and maintain a convex surface. So the study in this case is to see if this substance actually has that capability. Now I'm going to assert and make a claim that under my observations and my understanding, it does not have the ability to support shear stress. It does not have the ability to conform to the exterior of shapes and objects. It will act just as we find it in the natural world. Now the reason that some people make these assertions is because they're influenced by what we know as the TV. These people think that they represent science and that their claims are scientific. In this case you would imagine that it would, apply the scientific method. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it from 2 points of view to see what is through the scientific method and what we find through that. Now I'm going to make the assertion right here and now. I'm confident that I can say that what we're going to establish is that water does take the shape of a container and it forms a free surface which is a horizontal level plane. And in this case from the mean level, we mean no deviation in the elevation from a given point. So a straight line, whereas on a curve, if we start at this point, the curvature goes here, this point here is at a lower elevation from this point. But we know in reality that gradients, going from a higher elevation to lower elevation, water will flow. We can see it in many examples that I'll sit in here. So, going by the scientific method and trying to be as reasonable and as accurate as we possibly can, obviously here we have the observation. So, what kind of statement could I make? You know, as I say, I can come from it from two angles. So the statement I'm going to make for me is that water will flow from a higher point to a lower point of elevation. When water is met by resistance, in this case a containment, you can see it by the rocks here, that it's going to fill that void from the lowest point upwards, and that it's going to form a horizontal plane. It is not going to conform to the exterior of any shape and object. It is not going to have convexity upon its surface. It is how it appears to be, and this is what we're going to try and establish. Water, the abundant substance, regardless of what people assert that they see on TV, this substance does not lie, and I encourage you to follow through the same steps to see if you can come to the same conclusions that I'm going to come to. But I'm just going to put this in here right now. I understand that people that are taking the beliefs are going to make assertions. Like, they want to assert how the substance behaves, but they have no testing to follow that through. It does not apply to the scientific method. What they're going to say is water behaves the way we assert that it behaves, but we can't test and we can't show you that because we need to remove ourselves from the reference frame, that being Earth, and go to some other reference frame. Now, when you look at this type of statement, what's followed by it, that is understood as pseudoscience. A set of statements and beliefs that appear to be true on the surface and recorded as true do not apply, there's no scientific method applied to any of those statements. So unless you can apply the scientific method to a statement that's pseudoscience, my statement is not pseudoscience, my statement is backed by reality. That's what I'm about to show you. So here we get to the serious part, the actual testing. Now, as you can see, I'm well prepared. So for all you children out there and globe believers, always take precautions when you're involving yourself in testing so that you don't hurt yourself. Also, I'm finding it really difficult, as I said a long time ago, I find this highly embarrassing. The reason that I find it highly embarrassing is because it's so simple. It has been known for a very long time, but we feel the need that it has to be pointed out. So as I said, there's many people who have a false understanding of science and the scientific method. So what we're demonstrating here is a process to go through. Now before we even get to that, I'm going to cover a couple of things that are likely to come at us. As I highlighted before, pseudoscience. As you can read from that description, we understand that any claims being made must be checked using the scientific method, no excuses. So when we hear people saying bodies of standing water can bend, bodies of standing water can display curvature upon the surface, then we have to have a test for that. We have to be able to see the substance behaving like that. Now what I'm going to show you here is that it's impossible for the substance to behave the way people want it to, and they have no test. Okay? They just have words, assertions, an image on the TV screen. That's not science, that's religion. And these morons should be embarrassed. I am trying to help you by embarrassing you into accepting reality when you should need no prodding of such. You should be competent enough, adult enough, honest enough to accept what is being demonstrated to you in your actual reality. You do not bring an image to try and refute testable facts. If your image does not match the testable facts, there's something wrong with your image. It's as simple as that. So we don't accept excuses. I'll give you an example. What I'm about to show you is a demonstration of the substance. What we will get is comments and statements of, oh, you moron, you can't show a demonstration of water while you're on Earth because Earth is affecting the test. You need to show it on a bigger scale, which is never defined. And what do they mean by that? They mean we have to leave the Earth reference frame. We have to go to a place, a reference frame known to them as outer space, and we need a planetoid rock in order to conduct a test that would, you know, show these claims to be correct. Again, it's a claim that's unfalsifiable because no such reference frame exists. We cannot get to that. We exist here on Earth where we test and measure actual substances to formulate an understanding. Okay, so that's pseudoscience. No tests, pseudoscience. Claim made, no test followed, pseudoscience. We made the observation, made the prediction, and now I'm about to show you once I get the steam out of my goggles and hot stuff. Anyhow, as I say, hugely embarrassed. Before we go any further, I would like you to note, even on the implements that we have in every household, we have markers denoting level, so that when we fill the vessel up, we get to maximum point, minimum point, and any variation in between. And it will be the same on any wall, any part of the outer wall of the vessel. The water level will be the same height, the same elevation at any given point upon the surface. Now, as you can see clearly here, before we even go any further, the water takes the shape of the container. It forms a free, horizontal, level surface, meaning no deviation in elevation from any point. Okay, so when I start here, there's no lower elevation here, it's at the same elevation all the way. So, we come here and we can see clearly we've already established that the box that we're using, the fish tank that we're using, is sitting levelled, because again, embarrassing, we already know that the water is going to tell us whether it's levelled or not. But we have to get through this, as I say, because there's some childish morons out there who actively deny reality and want you to be as stupid as they are. So, we'll try this with various containers, and we will also change maybe the temperature of the water, just to be fair, see if it behaves any differently, so we can mess with some of the variables. So, some of the variables we're going to mess with are the container, and we're also going to mess with the substance. So as we can see on the fish tank, we have used a ruler and we have created markers. As you can see, 100mm on this wall, 100mm on this wall, 100mm on this wall. Is that accurate? Yep. And 100mm on this wall. Accurate? Okay. So, as was proposed, as we fill this void with water, it is going to take the shape of the container and it's going to form a level surface. We will be able to see that it's formed a level surface because of the pre-markers we already have there. But as I say, the water is more accurate than our little device here. Who are we?
That's it.
Alright. Right, let's just have a wee look, shall we? Let's go round the markers. Yep. Now we've changed the containment just so that we can be thorough and fair, and we have done the same 100mm containment. You on?
Bit more, mate.
More?
Yeah. Hot.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And again. Here we have a more cylindrical shaped containment. Let me just double check. Oh, we're sitting slightly off there.
Perfect.
Can you see the marker, Dan?
There you go. Just a bit more. That's it. Sorted.
So what we're doing now is we've changed the containments. So now we're going to change the other variable, which is the water itself. So we're going to heat it up. I don't know what else really we can do to it other than changing the viscosity, which would then, make it null and void because it's now just purely water. So we're changing the temperature just to show. While we wait, we don't want it to get too hot. We can see that it's increasing in its temperature right now, but for safety purposes we don't want it too hot, so we're going to switch it off now. What we can show here is that we understand that water is the great leveler, that we can use it to level anything, and again when we say level in the real world we mean no deviation in the elevation upon the surface. So as we can see here we're still levelled with the containment. Okay, what now I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to elevate one side of the containment like such. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go around the surface and show that the surface of the water. Okay, Dan? Okay?
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? And around here.
Yeah.
Okay?
10.5.
So, as we can clearly see, the water will indeed show us level. What else could we add in, just to be fair? Shall we go from a globe point of view? Should we now try it from their hypothesis? So a glober's observation would be standing bodies of water bend. The place where they have witnessed this is not in the natural world, it's on the TV. What then would be their hypothesis? They will say that water still falls to the lowest point, which would be closest to the centre of the sphere Earth, and the surface forms convexity upon it. So we could say then that the prediction would be that standing bodies of water conform to the exterior of shapes and objects and display the topography upon the surface. Should we give it a go, children? We're just going to repeat one of these containments again. We have changed the temperature of the water. again we find that the water does indeed behave the way we predicted, just as we observe in the natural world. So, to recap, what can we conclude from this? Water takes the shape of the container. Water, when not on a slope, like a decline, when not moving or flowing, if it's not on a position of one point to a lower elevation, so as it would flow, when we find it in containment, it fills the void of the containment, pressing against the walls of the containment equally, and it will rise to a point of what we call level, that being no deviation in elevation upon any given point of the surface of the body of water. The water is formless, it does not support shear stress, just as we can highlight here. You know, we have different shapes and objects in here. You know, we can look at something like this, we can put it back in. You know, the water does not display that topography upon the surface. It cannot support itself. Its lowest potential state is a horizontal plane. So I really don't know what else to say on the matter. The conclusion is very simple, as has been stated. Just as you observe, I encourage everybody to do these tests yourself. It is the scientific method. Now we're going to have a wee laugh, and we're going to go through the same procedure as a globe believer. Now, we are globe earth believers. So, first and foremost, we start with our observation, which in any sane, rational person's mind would be in the natural world. But in this case, in the natural world, nowhere does anybody see water behaving the way a globe earther wants it to behave. So as a globe earther, we start, what's your observation, globe earther? I see stuff on my TV screen. Now, as you can see on my TV, the water is bending around the outside of my rock, which means the water conforms to the exterior of shapes and objects, and you can have slopes, one point of elevation lower than another point of elevation with no water flowing. And that's my observation. My hypothesis is that through my observation of seeing stuff on TV, water does indeed conform to the exterior of shapes and objects. Water can indeed be on lower elevation, i.e. a slope without flowing, and standing bodies of water can display convexity upon their surface. Now I'm going to show you my tests. Here is my tests. How do I establish level? How do I see? Let me see here. It's running off. Dan, I can't get it to stay on the ball. Am I missing something?
Probably, mate.
What am I missing?
Try once again.
It's just running off, making a mess of my table.
It
How
sounds
about
like
this? It's running off. I can't get it to contain itself on the outside of the shape.
It's also level on the table.
Oh dear,
So
my hypothesis was TV. No, my observation was TV. My hypothesis was it would stick to the outside of shapes and objects, but it doesn't. I'm going to have to come up with an excuse. I know what it is, Dan. I know. Because we are here on Earth, the natural world,
right.
my mental gymnastics needs to take us out of the world
That's it.
to the realms of imagination.
That's it.
Right? We are in the realms of imagination. Water just all clings round it for reasons. There's clever people's got equations. And as I say, you can see it on my phone, so it must be scientifical, logical,
Indeed.
rational,
Indeed.
right? I don't care about all this testing stuffs,
Yeah.
right? And things agreeing with hypotheses. No. What I need you to take to note is the unfalsifiability of my claims. I want to assert to you that water does behave the way that I say, but you need to trust me. It can only show you it on my TV. But the TV's scientifical.
Isn't that pseudoscience then, no?
Some would say it's pseudoscience, Stan, some would say it is indeed pseudoscience. But the majority, the consensus, like the consensus on YouTube's, says it's scientifical.
Right.
So therefore,
Must be.
I've got loads of pals that say so it must be. I encourage every other globe believer to partake in the testings. We can't keep saying we're scientificals if we don't do the scientifical tests. Okay?